Hello, this is Farrell Vincent with Nation 473. And I wanted to do a second take on this video. We had the sound quality thing where my webcam decided to kick in again. So I figure it's a very recent video. We'll just rock this thing out real quick. We still have all the other framework, so it should be pretty quick to get up. So I made a video recently and I want to talk about a specific thing that is coming out, or that I believe is actually coming out, and that is C39, C40, and C41. Some images have been circulating around the various Facebook groups and Discord, Reddit, etc. And so I'm going to go ahead and actually pull those onto screen. So what the basic rumor is that this down here would be C39, this would be C40, and then recently a new image surfaced of a possible C41. And there's something to this. I mean, Age of Order, which is Camel's other game that is older than Age of Z Origins, and basically the game we play is just a reskin of that original game. It really is something that they have, right? Like in that game, they actually had C40 earlier than we did in our life cycle. They never went to C41, but take it or leave it. There's a couple of changes in that game too, going from, C40, or sorry, C38 to C40, as they did as well. So let's talk a little bit about like predictions, right? So is it real? I'm not 100% sure yet. We will know for sure when Camel officially announces it. Until then, we'll go on speculation. So the speculation, if Age of Order, the other game, is anything to base this off of, the most controversial thing that will come up is going to be the changes to the Academy in Age of Order that went up to level 40. And it cost uranium, of course, to get the building to level 40, but also for each new research option. So all of the new research in that one costed the equivalency of uranium in this game. And that, is going to really suck. Having to pick between, well, do I level up my city or do I level up my technology, is going to be where a lot of players, especially free-to-play players, are going to sit. In Age of Order, they did do one good thing, though, for helping that a little bit, and that was the equivalent of our trackers. These trackers down here started dropping off of max level monsters. In their case, it's dragons, but for us, it would be like C30 monsters. They also went up to, I believe, level 35, but don't quote me on that one. But I thought they also leveled up their monsters at the same time that they got C40. So in theory, we could get higher level zombies, and also we could theoretically get trackers for uranium from killing monsters, which means that it is going to be even more imperative that we do that every day. So again, if Age of Order is anything to base what we're going to get off of, that's what we'd be looking at. The two games have diverged, though. They've had minor divergences over the last 2 years or so, so it would not necessarily shock me to find out that we get something different. So we will have to see that when it officially comes out. So that kind of becomes the next question of, when do I think this would be announced, or when do I think this becomes official? And I'm going to pull this up to tell you. I'm going to predict something. We'll see how well this ages. The new journey is one of the things on the anniversary gala. And I think that this new journey in 15 days and 5 hours from the current time of recording is going to be centered around C40 to C41, right? If they do a C41. I don't know if they're going to do C39 and C40, or if they're going to do a C41 as well. Again, some of the images are all separated. I still think C39 and C40 are more likely, but we could see a C41. So that's when I think this will come out. I also think that, when that does happen, we do need to talk a little bit about how that changes or alters the meta in any way. Because it's not just enough to say, okay, well, we're getting, level 40 garage. So that's going to make our fleets bigger. And we're going to get, level 40 on all of our buildings, like the embassies and the hospitals and the depots and all the other stuff, right? That's one thing we're getting, sure. But the big thing is T13 troops. Depending on what levels we get what, depends on how quickly or easily some of these are obtainable. But in essence, T13 troops will really switch us over to a much deadlier meta game that it will exist than the one that we have currently. Currently, the T12 EMP cannons are best in class for any one unit type, and there's really nothing to combat them. And when we go to C40, the best in class unit is going to be the T13 Havoc Dominators, or whatever they end up calling them. And that's going to be the stormtroopers basically for mid-range. So mid-range cities are going to absolutely crush in the uranium mines at C40, C41, whatever it ends up being. And the main reason behind that is we will have to face off against the electromagnetic conduction. This ability is basically every 3 attacks, cast chain lightning, dealing tons of damage to up to 3 targets, and prioritize enemy back row. Of course, it can be stacked on a single target if there's only one available. This one ability goes off on the second hit of every single fight. So it actually casts one full cycle or 2 seconds earlier than any other ability that a long-range city can do. So that's why this becomes very devastating for the uranium mines specifically. And honestly, it has some implications going into mid-range heavy alliances and alliances that are currently using a lot of C38 mid-rangers. On the flip side, long-range cities will get T13 cannons, and there's a reason why those are important. When you have an alliance that is still coming up, right, and not everyone is C38, when the big spenders of your nation, in my case, Champ and AKE, when they all get to C40, or C41, whenever it would unlock, and they start rolling out T13 cannons, that's going to become even harder to kill them in team fights. So in the team fight mechanics, the long-range cities should still have a competitive edge. And the main reason behind that is you have to kill all of the T11 cannons before you can even start damaging the T13s, which means that people like Champ and AKE, in a void, in a frenzy, in a team fight, elite war, whatever the case may be, you have to kill all of the other troops before you can start lowering their damage output. And so they're going to be able to deal a lot more damage from complete safety. And that's dangerous because, when the strongest players in a nation are essentially immune to damage, it's going to be really hard to actually affect any changes. Mid-range players will need to adopt this tactic when it comes to the T11 Havoc Dominators, but most of them don't. Most of them still like to use the T12 rockets, and that's why they don't get the same benefit that I'm seeing for a lot of the long-range cities. It's just because the long-range cities want to use cannons, the mid-range cities want to use rockets primarily. So that's kind of the main difference. So it's kind of like the reason why a lot of people don't necessarily send T10 EMP cannons to protect C38s. It's just because they're so hard to recruit. You're going to run into the same thing with the T11 stormtroopers, with the T13 stormtroopers. It's going to be a lot harder to do that. And so it's going to naturally gravitate towards long-range team fights. It's a very long way of explaining this, but that is what I foresee happening in that regard. So that's kind of the biggest point of a lot of that. In theory, we should also get like level 7 equipment at some point in there, which could be, its own thing, right? If you're failed at a gamble like I did, you could theoretically gamble for level 7 equipment. So that's a possibility. Or if you just want to start over, I don't know what I'm going to do yet in that regard. Some of the other things that we could see us getting is going to be, again, higher zombie types, more zombie types, and there could be another mini game. So anyone who's made a new city has played this little like walking around kind of arena shooter style game. That's what the new cities get instead of the really boring Age of Order reskinned tower defense games. But what we basically get is this kind of run and gun game. And all the new cities, all the old cities don't have that yet. It's never been rolled out to an older city. And so I think that when this new journey hits, we're going to start to see those unlock, because I can't imagine Camel not wanting to put this in the game for older cities at some point, just because like you have the resources available and people are going to like that. Like it wouldn't be smart for them to only put that to new cities. Like they do need to give older players some love. So yeah, I think resource constraints are going to start to come back up for sure. As we get to C40, C41, expect, of course, the city's upgrades to be really expensive, but also academy research. Once that comes back, it's going to be really hard to keep resources in your city for a bit longer. So those farms that you haven't been on in forever, probably going to see some use soon. So I'd recommend just starting to gather some resources on your farms for a little bit, just in case we're right. Hoard up some resources for the top people in your nation, right, and try to help them out, because the champs and the AKEs of the world, it's better if they're spending their money on power than resources. And most of them don't tend to farm, so be a bro. Help your super spenders out. But that is kind of the crux of today's video. This is all of my predictions, everything that I could see or foresee going into a C40/C41 scenario. So again, sorry for the previous video. I don't know. I need to like unplug this thing or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But I definitely appreciate everyone's time. If you guys like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the channel. As always, please leave the video a like. It really helps it get spread out to all of the other people. And yeah, leave me a comment if you have anything that you want to say about C40 or C41. Like, are you scared? Are you ready? Are you prepared? I'm not. But as always, I will see you on the next one.